Hello everyone, I'm here in Blue Water car parking and I'm about to go and hopefully try the new Chanel Comet. I don't know 100% that I'll be able to smell it, but I'm pretty sure it was released a few days ago and they did tell me here that they will have it. So hopefully I'm going to go smell the new Chanel Comet. It is getting a lot of mixed reviews. It does really sound like something that I'm going to like. The only note I'm worried about in it is heliotrope. Whilst I enjoy heliotrope, it can be a little bit sickly if it's in a certain dose. So if it's a little bit too much heliotrope for my taste, then that could ruin the scent for me. But apart from that, it sounds like a really lovely musky iris floral scent, which is totally up my street. So let's go and see what it's all about. Hello, so I'm back from Blue Water and I found Comet in not one but two stores. So they have Comet in John Lewis and also in House of Fraser. So I went into John Lewis first and found them at the back where all the perfume is, not on the Chanel counter, but at the sort of right at the far end of where the perfume is. That's where they have their Chanel exclusives, and that's where I first tried it. And I tried it on my wrist and hand, so I've got it here and here. And I also got to try the new oils, which you'll see in the little clip that I'll post now. So they have those new body oils. I think they're very expensive. I didn't look at the price, but I remember when Jacob spoke about them, they are very, very expensive. And I put some beige on this arm and I put some gardenia up here. And it's now been about an hour since I applied the oils. And I can smell the beige still, but it's quite light. The beige, I wouldn't say is exactly like the perfume. It's similar, but maybe not quite as floral. It's definitely got a musky feel. Maybe it's a bit more citrusy on the oil version. Very nice, but I wouldn't be paying those kind of prices for really any body oil, even if it was absolutely freaking amazing. Yeah, it's not going to happen, but I wanted to try them. And then the gardenia I put right up here because I wanted it away from Comet. I didn't know that I could smell it. It's only very, very faint. Yeah, I can smell kind of the similar smell to the opening of gardenia. So the kind of fresher floral scent, not the really musky dry down that you get later on. But it's quite light. So for me, really wanted to test, happy to have tested them, happy to know that I definitely don't need them. And let's move back to Comet. So I've got it on paper and I've got it on skin. And I did then go into House of Fraser and they've got a dedicated Chanel area right at the front of the store, really lovely little area. And there was a really kind sales assistant in there. And I said, oh, I just want to smell the Comet. So I needed to spray it on paper. I hadn't got it on card. And as I sprayed it, and I said to her, how well is it doing? And she said, it's selling really well. And she said, oh, I've probably got a couple of samples you can have if you want. I was like, yes, please. So bless her, oh, drop one. Bless her, she gave me 2 samples, not one, but 2 samples, which is so amazing. So I will of course be following up with a full review. I actually have a 10ml decan on the way as well, because I decided to just blind buy out of curiosity, and plus it sounded like my kind of thing. So I did partake in a split that was advertised on one of our Facebook groups. So I do have 10ml coming, and I'm going to reserve my judgment for now on whether I think it's worth buying a full bottle. I'm just going to start to talk about the opening notes. So this hand here is completely clean. All I have up here is that beige body oil. So this hand, I actually went out unfragranced because I knew that I wanted to spray Comet and I was gonna spray it all around here. And I had no idea that I was gonna be able to get a sample, so that was a real bonus. Right, let's talk about the opening. So I get almost like a pure almond essence. So if you imagine the almond extract that you use when cooking sweet things, usually you can put them in biscuits and all sorts of things. You can put almond extract in. That's what I get straight away, but it doesn't stay like that for very long at all. So yeah, at the moment it's almost a marzipan like almond, and it's a very, very full on proper marzipan or almond extract kind of smell. So it has a bit of a cherry nuance because of that, because almond generally does smell a little bit like cherry, and vice versa, I think. One thing I was concerned about is the heliotrope note, because whilst I think heliotrope smells really nice, I do find it a bit cloying. If I wear a fragrance that has quite a lot of heliotrope, it starts to get on my fripneys quite soon, and I don't actually find heliotrope in here, even though I find almond, and almond is a facet of heliotrope, quite a strong facet of heliotrope. I don't actually smell the heliotrope, I just really smell a cherry almond like scent. And it's almost a bit biscuity actually. This is the most gourmand Chanel that I've ever smelled. Probably in my opinion, it is the most gourmand Chanel there is, because I think I've smelt them all, pretty sure, unless there's like really, really, you know, really old stuff that I've not smelt that have long discontinued, but they didn't used to make fragrances gourmand back in the day. So I'm pretty confident to say that this is the most gourmand Chanel there is. Therefore, the most mainstream of the Les Exclusifs line. Although some of them are, you know, I find them all very, very approachable. And Amissia's quite mainstream-ish, I suppose. Beige. I mean, they're quite mass appealing scents. And I would say this is a mass appealing scent. I'm struggling over my words, I'm sorry. There is a funky facet in here which I hadn't picked up on before. I don't know, I would say almost indolic, like not exactly fecal, but when you think about indolic floral fragrances, and they can be a little bit dirty. I didn't pick that up when I was in store or at any point until right now, spraying it in a more open area. Bluewater was very busy. It's Bank Holiday Monday today. So many people, loads of kids, lots of noise. Queues at every single coffee shop, food outlet. So you've got the smells of all the food everywhere. So I wasn't really able to smell Comet in an environment that was any good for smelling anything really. So it's really nice I've got the sample, because I don't think it would have been a great video if I'd have just smelt it in store, walked around for a bit, come home. Yeah, it's really good to be able to respray it and talk about the top notes now. Now I'm starting to get less of that extract of almond, so that is really calmed right down, and I get the cherry blossom kind of note. And I wouldn't have ever said, oh, that's cherry blossom, because I don't really know what cherry blossom smells like. I've smelt fragrances with cherry blossom notes. I've smelt fragrances that are supposed to be like solid floors of cherry blossom, but I've never smelt real cherry blossom. I don't even know if cherry blossom has a smell. Some of you can tell me that. I know that in perfumery you can't extract it for sure, so they have to compose an accord of cherry blossom. So that means that cherry blossom can smell completely different from one perfume to another. I know there was a lot of worry that the cherry blossom in here would make the fragrance smell cheap and synthetic, and I don't think that it does. And shampooey, a lot of people associate cherry blossom in fragrances as smelling a bit shampooey, which again gives it that more cheap association. I'd say that funkiness I was picking up on is dispersing already, so Don't worry, this is not an animalic fragrance, but I just picked up on an animalic tone. It's still there a little bit though. But yeah, the cherry blossom is this light floral pinky coloured floral sort of almond. It's very diffusive, but definitely do smell pink, a little bit of pink in here. And I smell the iris now as well. And the iris has got a slight sharpness to it. So of course it's a little powdery, but it just has a touch of an edge. Sometimes iris can go in a hairspray direction for me, but this isn't doing that exactly, but it almost is. Like, it's just teetering, like a touch of a sharpness in here that reminds me a little bit of hairspray. But don't worry, it's not generally a hairspray smelling fragrance. But yeah, it's just that the iris is doing that a little bit. Definitely powdery, but not full-on talcum powder. This is a nice powdery. It's not as powdery as Shalimar Millésime Iris is. That's very, very powdery as an example. This is only maybe half that level of powderiness. But it does give the impression to me of cosmetics in general, lotions, powders, makeup, all of that. It's all there. If you know the red bottle, Chanel No. 1, it was a fragrance mist, so it was more like a body spray. It reminds me of that, although I don't know that fragrance very well. Another fragrance I would compare it to is Peut-être from Lancôme, which really does give me body product vibes in the best way possible. It smells sort of like lots of clean, beautiful products that you use on your skin. So it's, in my opinion, your skin but better kind of scent. This does a similar thing, but there's more to it than that. It does smell a little bit violety. So iris often smells violety anyway. They have a very similar chemical in them, the irones in iris, and you have ionones in violet, and they are actually fairly similar apparently in chemistry, and they go together beautifully. I absolutely love violet and iris combinations, so I feel like I smell that here. It's a lovely, sweet, powdery aura. I don't think it's going to blow anyone's socks off in terms of originality. I have smelt things like this before, but nothing exactly like it. I don't pick up on aldehydes. I'm sure I read that there's aldehydes, and apparently every Chanel has aldehydes. If they're there, they're not the kind I recognise. So aldehydes do come in many, many forms. They're not just champagne bubbles of Chanel No. 5. They can be soapy, they can go waxy, but I don't find them here. More like, it feels like a rice powder kind of scent. Rice powder, musky, iris, violet, a little bit sweet. That almond note is still there, lending it sweetness. So obviously almond is sweet if you think about, you know, almond extract, marzipan, that kind of thing. But that almond note is definitely nowhere near as strong as it was in the opening. If you go and test this in a shop and you find it too almondy, just wait 5 minutes, because you might be surprised. You might hate the opening and potentially love it 10 minutes later. But you do need to like almond generally. It's definitely keeping that almond facet going. So let's go to the other side where I sprayed it over an hour ago now, and it is much lighter. Obviously, I mean, I literally just sprayed that, so you would expect that, but I think in the density of it is lighter as well. So it's not like it's just not as strong. the density of the sweetness. So the sweetness is calmed right down. There's much more of a musky iris scent now, not so much almondy. But it has a light almondy touch. Everything's very, very much mixed together. It's all seamlessly blended together. It's not one of those fragrances where you can specifically pick out certain notes. It's just this aura, this musky, irisy, slightly sweet, almondy powder scent. Maybe a hint of spice. I don't think there's any spices listed. But I feel like there's a little spiciness in here. Not anything I would specifically name. Like, I don't think I smell cinnamon. Definitely nothing heavy. But it feels like just the nature of the fragrance is giving us a little spicy zing. It's quite soft though. I mean, it's projecting off my hand, and my hand generally wouldn't project much. You know, there's not much warmth there or anything, so it's not really the place for projecting, but it's still projecting off my hand like that far. So it's not weak at this point. Try here where it's a bit warmer. It's still not that warm. Yeah, I still get that little piquant hint of spice, but it's mostly powdery, fluffy musk. I mean, it's lovely. It's cloud-like, ethereal, very approachable. All of that, you know, that slightly dirty tone that I got is long gone over this side. It is a fluffy cloud of sweet musk, really. I mean, that really just sums it up. If that sounds boring to you, then it probably will be boring to you, but I quite like things like this. It is a your skin but better scent, in my opinion, at this point. I don't really think I can find anything else. It wouldn't surprise me if there's a touch of vanilla in here, because as I say, it's a sweetened musk. So if there's a touch of vanilla sweetening it up, that would make sense. What it is not, and I'm sure you weren't expecting it to be anyway, it is not any woodsy amber aroma chemicals, so thumbs up for that. Really don't like that over here. It is not syrupy, sweet, sugary confection. It is not candy floss, it's not cupcakes, it's not yeah, it's none of that either, but the sweetness is definitely there. So if you're like me and you like a bit of sweetness, then I think you might like. If you like sweet, fluffy musks that aren't too sweet, if you like iris and you like almond, then I think that it's worth testing. I'm not going to do a full review. This is literally just first impressions. This is the first hour. And I'm going to wait until I've really got to know it a lot better. So I'm going to be wearing the samples, and then when my 10ml decant comes and I can really go to town on it, because I like to overspray, especially things like this that aren't that overwhelming. There's nothing overbearing, there's nothing obnoxious here. It's very ethereal and very light. Not to say it's weak, I can't really make that assumption at this point. I don't think it's weak, but who knows, we'll see. But yeah, it's the kind of thing I would definitely overspray, and I will really enjoy wearing this. Is it going to be full bottle worthy? I can't tell you at this point. I have a feeling that it will go into the category of, I would buy this if I got it at a really good price. That's where I feel right now. I definitely wouldn't buy it at full price at this point, and I'm not dismissing it either because I do really like it. But for me to add a fragrance into my collection these days, it's really got to be right up there as a very, very strong like, if not a love. So that's where I am, and I hope that you enjoyed this little first impressions video. If you did, do give me a thumbs up. and let me know if you have experienced Comet yet and what are your impressions. Do they vary from mine? Because we all perceive things very differently, so do bear that in mind as well. Please don't go and blind buy this very expensive fragrance based on my opinion or anyone else's. It's your precious money you worked hard for, so do try and sniff it first. But for me, it's at this point, it's a thumbs up. I really like it. Bye.